We hope you enjoy today's story. While offenses can be forgiven by many, it is notable that Benjamin Franklin in Austin, Texas, was not among them. On the day in question, the air temperature was -6 degrees Celsius, with a light westerly breeze, and the evening appeared even more spectacular, with a full moon and a temperature around -2 degrees Celsius at 8 p.m. All of this corresponded with the ideal meteorological conditions. Florida-Georgia Line was performing at the Moody Center, and Henry had obtained 2 front-row tickets for him and his wife Melanie. The 33-year-old couple had been married for approximately 5 years and had planned to celebrate Valentine's Day a week earlier. However, there was a problem. In South Falls, South Dakota, the temperature was below freezing. The temperature was 11 degrees Celsius, there was 30 centimeters of snow on the ground, and according to forecasts, another 20 centimeters was expected before it would melt. What is the relevance of this information to Henry, Melanie, and their date with Tyler Hubbard, Brian Kelly, and the rest of the team? Henry was called at the last minute to fly to Sioux Falls the day before to fix a major computer malfunction at the Sanford Medical Center. The issue manifested when the neonatal department of the Sanford Health System, a prominent healthcare organization, was selected to participate in a national research initiative. Henry, the principal information technology specialist at his company, was not accustomed to business travel. Nevertheless, as Sanford was the third largest client of his company, Henry took the earliest flight from Austin on Thursday. He spent approximately 6 hours addressing the issues and had a return flight booked to Austin at 6 o'clock. The time was 12 a.m. This would allow him to return home 10 hours before the concert. However, by 3 a.m., 30 centimeters of snow had already fallen on the ground and was still coming down. Notifications about delays appeared on the airline's app on his mobile. Finally, the flight was cancelled. Henry stayed up all night looking for options. He received good compensation for his work and was worth every penny. However, his boss would not be pleased if he booked a ticket home. Nevertheless, he had just saved his company several $1,000s more than a charter would have cost. Therefore, he tried that option by 5 a.m. By the following morning, it was evident that there would be no further flights for the foreseeable future. The snowfall persisted throughout the day, accompanied by a notable decline in temperature, reaching approximately -9 degrees Celsius. Some commentators likened the situation to a storm of significant proportions. For Henry, the prevailing sentiment was one of frustration and exasperation. He proceeded to dial Melanie's office direct number. After the second ring, her assistant, Kim, answered and connected him. "Good morning, Henry. I hope this message finds you well. I just wanted to check in and see if you had any concerns about tonight. What time are you planning to come home? Melanie, have you seen the weather in some of the more remote areas of the city? It seems that there may be some difficulties in getting around. I know you were headed there, but I wasn't paying attention to the details. Unfortunately, it seems that there has been a significant accumulation of snow. It has reached 30 centimeters, and there is a possibility of another 10 centimeters. The weather is expected to reach 20 degrees today, and all flights have been cancelled. I am sorry to inform you that I was looking forward to tonight. I am aware that I have been working a lot lately, and this was an ideal opportunity to begin a romantic weekend together. However, I am frustrated by the necessity for me to travel for work. I only travel 4 or 5 times a year, and only when it is absolutely necessary. In this instance, it was a serious crisis. Given that we have had few opportunities to spend time together recently, I would like to reassure you that my work schedule has not been as demanding as it might otherwise have been. Indeed, I have been able to maintain a lifestyle that is commensurate with our shared aspirations for a high quality of life in Texas. I accept your observation that we have spent less time together than we would have liked. I am aware that I have not been as available as I might have been, and I am working hard to achieve partnership at the firm, which will require a greater commitment to my work. You have reached a level of seniority where you can largely set your own schedule, provided that you remain within the bounds of reason. I am on the cusp of achieving this, but it will be another year or so before I can start controlling my work time. I miss you and us. I miss you too. My colleague Sue is also a friend of yours, is she not? If so, why don't you invite her and go have some fun? I would be happy to order a car to pick you up. He suggested that she take him home, emphasizing that he did not want his personal circumstances to detract from her enjoyment of the event. Melanie was initially reluctant, proposing instead that they simply sell the tickets and stay home to watch the concert stream online. She asserted that she could easily sell the tickets through their account. Repeatedly, she expressed her desire to forego attending the event if he was not accompanying her. Henry, however, urged her to reconsider, emphasizing the value of social interaction and the potential for enjoyment. She was reminded of her new pair of Tacova boots and how attractive they appeared on her. After a brief period of debate, she relented and said, "I love you," before ending the call. Melanie then located her burner phone in the rear compartment of her large bag and pressed the speed dial button. This was the subsequent exchange. "Hello? How is your day going? It seems to be going well. Perhaps I have something that might cheer you up. I am pleased to inform you that Henry has called. He is currently situated in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Due to unforeseen circumstances, he was compelled to hasten his journey on business, only to encounter a severe blizzard. It is, indeed, a remarkable stroke of fortune. I wish you the best of luck. I still possess 2 tickets for tonight, but my husband will be spending the evening in the northern reaches of the continent. Diana is still residing with her parents in Memphis. This is fortuitous. Perhaps we could spend the evening together. Together, I have procured a new denim skirt and boots that I have long desired to try on. I shall call a cab to your place and we shall proceed from there. How does that sound to you? I shall order a dark cab to ensure that we have tinted windows." Laughter. The cost is $30. She desired to indulge in a relaxing bath and rest for a while before attending the concert. Before leaving the office, she contacted her closest friend, Susan. They had met during their first year at the firm and immediately connected, despite having only a year's age difference. They had a lot in common. "Hello, Susie. I hope you are well. I have a request." "How are you doing, Mel? I will be happy to help if I can. If Henry ever asks you about our evening at the Florida Georgia Line concert, please let me know. I am perplexed. Why are you still engaging with David, who is disagreeable?" Mel giggled. "I am unable to dislodge him from my thoughts. I am aware that his colleagues and partners refer to him as David the Jerk because he can be disagreeable. However, I will explain another humorous reason for the nickname." Sue was not amused. "Mel, Henry is an admirable person, and you two are an admirable couple. This is the time when you begin contemplating children and building a family together. You are not in college anymore. Why are you compromising with this individual? You are risking everything for a mere mortal, Mel." Her friend was faithful, but at the same time, she was somewhat more conservative in her views on marital fidelity. "I am aware of that. Sue, Henry is a great guy, and I am not planning to lose him. David is wild and fun, and we are both happy in our marriages. However, there is a sexual spark between us that shakes our worlds. Mel, you really need to think before you speak. If you were happy in your marriage, you would not be messing around with your boss in romantic escapades, and if he were truly satisfied, he would not be engaging in sexual relations with one of his employees. It would seem that you have not fully comprehended the implications of the marital vows you have taken. The phrase, forsaking all others, is quite clear." Mel began to feel weary of her friend's relentless advice. "Sue, will you be providing me with support if Henry ever inquires about this matter? I will not divulge any information and will never revisit this topic. However, if he asks me directly, I will inform him that I was with you. Where would you like to sit?" "Front row, right in the middle." "Thank you, Susie. You are the best. Next weekend, we are spending the day at the spa and salon. It is scheduled." Sue thought out loud, "Okay, bye." She then proceeded to bid farewell to Mel, who had rushed home to prepare for the evening's activities. These included consuming a couple of glasses of her preferred Pinot Gio, shaving her legs in a bubble bath, and getting dressed. She wore a snow-white lace bra, allowing her to unbutton a few top buttons of her white blouse. Her skirt was approximately 15 centimeters above the knee, showcasing her slender legs. The boots were dark gray and matched her vest. They were a Christmas gift from Henry. This was the inaugural occasion on which she had worn them, and she was so enthused that she failed to perceive the incongruity of the circumstances. She gazed into the mirror and was gratified by her reflection. She anticipated that she would garner considerable attention that evening. However, her sole interest was in one individual. After ordering a taxi, she consumed another glass of wine. She mentioned making a stop on the way to the concert. The driver was amenable to this suggestion, as an additional fee was welcome. The vehicle arrived at a gated community, and Melanie provided him with the necessary access code. The entry code was provided, and they proceeded for 2 blocks before stopping at the curb. Melanie's boss, David Miller, exited his residence and entered the vehicle. He greeted his companion with an enthusiastic and passionate kiss. "Oh my God, Mel. You smell wonderful, and you look stunning. I think we should skip the concert and head straight to your place." He observed the wedding ring and diamond on her left hand as she kissed and caressed her lover. He muttered, "Trash and a bastard," under his breath. Melanie had no intention of cheating on her husband. They met on a blind date set up by her best friend. There was an immediate mutual attraction. She was outgoing, friendly, and had an easy way with people. Henry was a bit more reserved, but there was an inner strength about him that attracted her. He never overshadowed her, but she always felt safe in his presence. He was kind but firm and warm. He was kind-hearted and wise beyond his years. He went to college on a scholarship and, after graduating, served 5 years in the Marine Corps. This experience, combined with his personality, made him someone others could always rely on. Mel found this trait as sexy as his 190 centimeters height and rugged good looks. Henry was skeptical of Mel's infatuations from the start. He never considered himself a catch or anything special. The Corps taught him that his duty was to look after those around him. He learned that you led from the front and that retreat was the worst possible option. The fundamental principle was impressed upon him at the base, and it remained even after he returned to civilian life. Being pursued by a beautiful woman caused him slight embarrassment. The only time he felt out of his element was when Mel suddenly grabbed him and kissed him passionately or looked at him across a crowded room with a gaze that could only mean, "I need you to figure out how to, me right now." As they grew together, Henry's fears subsided and Mel's confidence in them grew. They married after an 18-month courtship. Following a month-long courtship, which included a 4-month engagement, Henry was able to leverage his knowledge in communications and natural abilities to secure an excellent job at his current firm in Austin by his 3rd year at the company. By his 5th year, he had assumed leadership of his own department. 9 months after they got married, Mel graduated from law school and secured a solid entry-level position at a mid-sized firm in Austin specializing in oil and mineral rights law. She was very astute and caught the attention of 3 partners at the firm, Connor Sims and Miller. This is when the troubles began. David Miller was a 43-year-old. A year Miller was an older married man with 2 teenage children. His wife, Diana, was the principal of one of the local high schools. Miller and Diana had a good rapport, and Miller was aware that they would make an excellent married couple. However, Diana was unsure about Miller's character. It was evident that Miller was a formidable individual, and he was a valuable asset to the company. He worked at least 55 hours a week as a senior partner, while 2 of his colleagues barely worked 40. He expected his team to work around 70 hours a week. Mel was in her 3rd year at the firm and had finally moved up to a 65-hour work week. Miller was pleased with her work and gave her more substantial assignments. As a result, they began spending more time together, both during the day and after hours, as well as more time with the team and just the 2 of them. However, the loneliness that she had previously experienced became much more significant than her interactions with the team. They began to communicate more intimately and even touched each other at times. They were playing with fire, and both understood the risks involved. It took 6 months before the spark turned into a real flame. They won a major court case that brought in a profit of approximately $2 million. David's share was supposed to be around $400,000. Mel was to receive a bonus of $445,000. The entire team gathered in David's office to celebrate the event in the evening. The man was in such a jubilant mood that he even opened a bottle of his rare bourbon for the occasion. An hour later, the festivities were coming to a close. David requested that Mel step aside for a moment, which prompted a few amused expressions from the more observant guests. David saw the last visitor out and quietly locked the door. He turned around to find Mel leaning against his desk, already unbuttoning her blouse. David paced the room. David was overcome with passion and embraced Mel with fervor, engaging in a passionate kiss. While not as physically imposing as Henry, David was more assertive. He was a decisive individual, driven by a clear vision and a relentless pursuit of his goals. He had harbored a strong attraction to Mel since they began working closely together approximately 2 years ago. His desire had been steadily growing for an extended period, and now it was finally being fulfilled. David moved in and out of Mel for the next few minutes, holding her firmly by the hips. He proceeded to engage in sexual intercourse from behind as she bent over. David finally spoke, his voice low and intense. "You're amazing," he said, pulling away from her to allow her to turn around and embrace him. "I love that bold, sensual language, but I think you're just incredible. I hope this isn't a one-time occurrence. David, I don't think this is just a fleeting infatuation. I feel a deep connection with you that I don't want to resist. We're both married and committed to our spouses, but I hope we can have moments like tonight frequently." "I'm glad to hear you say that, Mel. I believe we can make it work." Both individuals expressed a desire to maintain the sanctity of their marriages, yet they also sought to cultivate more moments of intimacy and connection. David sought to demonstrate his profound desire for such moments, kneeling before Mel. 6 months prior, Mel and David had initiated their affair. Despite their efforts to conceal it, they managed to meet at least twice a month. On this particular night, they exhibited no outward signs of concern about being seen together. While they did not display overt displays of affection, it was evident to any observer that they were drawn to each other. In Sioux Falls, Henry was overcome with despondency and resolved to view the concert in person. If he could not be with her, he reasoned, he could at least observe her from afar. After the opening acts, the band FGL made their appearance, performing 4 songs in the fast and loud style until the 5th, which slowed down considerably. The cameraman did not capture the crowd's enthusiasm to any significant extent. However, when the camera began to focus on couples in the audience, Henry was overcome with longing and nearly ran to the bathroom. He then remembered. The song was Mel's favorite, and it remained on repeat for 30 seconds. Henry's world came crashing down, and his marriage began to disintegrate. The camera panned to a couple in the front row, situated right where Henry had purchased tickets. A man and a woman were embracing, swaying slowly and kissing passionately. They were clearly unaware that they were on camera. Henry recognized Mel in her new boots, which he had given her last Christmas. Although he was not particularly acquainted with David Miller, it was evident that he was the one embracing her. Henry collapsed to the floor, overcome with emotion. The pain of betrayal was overwhelming, akin to a physical blow. He was rendered speechless, his mind reeling. His head felt dizzy, and he struggled to breathe. The camera panned to 3 other couples, but then returned to Mel and David. Mel broke off the kiss, looked up, and saw themselves on the screen. Her face displayed a profound distress, evident even to the viewer. She buried her face in David's chest, pulling his head down to hers to hide her emotions. This lasted for approximately 15 minutes. He sat on the floor, tears streaming down his face. His utterances alternated between a muttered exclamation of disbelief, "Why Mel?" and an angry proclamation, "Damn you, Mel. You're going to get it." As his composure began to return, David Miller realized he needed to act quickly. He was taught that if you sit still and do nothing, you die. If you move and engage the enemy, you have a chance. He started to move. Henry called his good friend and attorney, Michael Lipome. Michael was a bit surprised by the call at 9, the time was 30 p.m. On a Friday night, he was even more surprised by the topic. He apologized to Henry and asked him to confirm a couple of times, seeking clarification on whether Henry was sure it was Mel. He advised Henry to hang up, but to answer the call that was supposed to come within the next 5 minutes. The telephone rang. The number was not familiar, but it was an Austin area code. "Hello. This is Henry Khanna." "Good evening, Mr. Khanna. This is Erica Hamilton, an attorney and a close acquaintance of Michael's. Thank you for calling me. You may call me Erica, and I will call you Henry. Erica Hamilton replied. Henry was about to interject, but she continued. Forgive me for being so direct, Henry, but time is of the essence. Your wife is at a concert with another man, and you witnessed their intimacy firsthand. Is that correct? Yes. Good. Where were they sitting, and what were they wearing? As far as you can tell, Henry responded as quickly and succinctly as possible. When we conclude our conversation, please send me the most recent and best photo of your wife that you have. I have a private investigator en route to the concert. He will arrive in 10 minutes, and if necessary, he will spend the entire evening there. It is imperative that we gather as much evidence as possible in the remaining time of the weekend. Thank you, Henry. Could you suggest a pretext to justify staying in Sioux Falls for a few more days? Our objective is to gather irrefutable evidence, and a single evening at the concert may not be sufficient to prove our case. You may remain in the area due to the inclement weather or continue working on behalf of your client. This will afford us a greater opportunity to apprehend the individual in question. I apologize for my forthrightness. Yes, I can facilitate that. Henry replied, I will send you the photograph as soon as possible and await your call. I will contact you no later than by noon tomorrow, provide an update. In the morning, contact your wife at a convenient time and inform her of your intention to remain in the area until Monday evening. I assume your employer will not object. As the senior vice president, I have a flexible schedule that would allow me to work with the client on Monday. Unfortunately, I must depart. We will continue this discussion tomorrow. Henry expressed gratitude for the conversation and quick actions. His mind was still reeling from the events of the night, and he was unsure of the final outcome. However, he was certain of one thing: this woman was good. That night, he barely slept and, for the first time, did not listen to FGL. The meeting concluded at 30 a.m. Henry had ceased attempting to fall asleep. He arose and gazed out the window, observing that the snowfall had diminished but was still occurring. He then turned on the local radio station, which had reported that a total of 55 centimeters of snow had accumulated over the previous 36 hours. This was a noteworthy record for Sioux Falls. Henry began making notes, noting that infidelity was a common occurrence. The affair was of no consequence to him, whether it was the first or the 100th. He would not tolerate a breach of trust between close relatives. Furthermore, the contempt they both showed towards him was the worst of all. They engaged in a slow dance and kissed in a very public place. In this particular locale, even if only one or two acquaintances observed the couple in question, the rumor would likely spread. The individual in question would be subjected to public scrutiny and ostracism. He would not tolerate such a situation. Additionally, he analyzed his actions as her husband over the past 5 years and determined that he had always been faithful to her. However, it is inaccurate to suggest that women were clamoring for his attention. He rarely looked at another woman and was deeply in love with Mel. This meant that he was unquestionably faithful to her. While they did argue on occasion, he was a devoted husband, caring, friendly, protective and respectful towards her as an equal partner. He did not deserve such contemptuous treatment. He created a comprehensive list of assets and liabilities. He compiled a concise list of individuals to contact, including his superior, his father, and 2 associates from the inner circle. He then proceeded to don his athletic pants and proceed to the hotel gym, where he engaged in rigorous exercise until 9 a.m. After showering and having breakfast, he retrieved his phone and discovered 2 messages from Mel. The first inquired about his well-being and expressed her longing for his presence. She also mentioned that the concert proceeded without incident and that Sue had joined her. This was yet another instance of disregard. He opted to investigate the matter further, contemplating whether he should seek legal counsel. However, he recognized that he was a Marine, trained to respond in times of crisis, and that seeking legal advice might not be the most optimal course of action. The phone rang twice before he responded. I have been informed that you are currently situated in Sioux Falls. I have observed the weather map and it appears that the conditions are particularly severe. Yes, it is snowing heavily outside. This level of snowfall is not typical in Texas, even over the course of a day. I am eager to return home. How can I be of assistance? Henry, I am merely curious. How did you find yesterday's concert? I particularly enjoyed the opening song, This Is How We Roll. I watched it live from my hotel room. Yes, Henry, it was a superb show. I know Mel had a good time, but I missed your presence. Thank you for letting me know. Before I conclude this conversation, I have one final question. I am aware that you are a devoted fan of FGL, so I am perplexed by your assertion that you confused This Is How We Roll with Up Down. Could you please clarify how that could have occurred? There was a prolonged silence on the other end of the line, and Henry proceeded. So she can sleep with her boss. I am uncertain as to what I or Jim have done to deserve such disrespect, but your betrayal causes me significant distress. Sue experienced a lump forming in her throat and tears welling up in her eyes. She realized that she had acted wrongly by covering for Mel. No true friend would ever ask someone they care about to help them be dishonest and hurt others. I'm so sorry, Henry. She replied almost in a whisper. How long has this been going on, Sue? How long has David Miller been sleeping with my wife? Henry was prepared for such an eventuality, but hearing it for the first time, he was taken aback. It required considerable effort on his part to maintain his composure. Sue, do Jim know you're lying for Mel and helping her break her wedding vows to cheat on me? Sue gasped. Oh no, Henry. Jim doesn't know anything about it. He would be devastated and utterly ashamed if he found out about my role. Okay, Sue. For now, I won't tell Jim about the role you played. Everything will come out. I am certain that you will have questions that you will need to answer. Jim is a good man, so I advise you to come clean when the time comes. Until then, if I discover that you have spoken to Mel about this conversation, I will inform Jim myself and ensure that he fully understands your role in assisting Mel in making false accusations against me. Sue was crying. I will not say anything to Mel. I will not even respond to messages or phone calls over the weekend. I will endeavor to avoid any further interaction with her. I am profoundly remorseful and ashamed. Henry abruptly terminated the call without offering a final farewell. Sue began to recognize the extent of her misguided actions in the name of friendship. She recognized the necessity to communicate with Jim without delay. Perhaps it would be optimal to do so immediately. Henry then contacted Mel. Her voice was somnolent, yet she portrayed the role of a devoted wife with remarkable proficiency. She exhibited a slight pout when she learned that he would not be home until Monday evening. At the earliest, they engaged in leisure activities with Sue, but it was a different experience without him. She had not planned much for the day, only a few errands and some housekeeping tasks. She had no special plans, but she promised to prepare something special when her husband returned home. She ended the conversation with a polite, I love you. Henry replied goodbye. She thought it was odd, but then David started caressing her breasts and tweaking her nipples so much that it drove her crazy, so she did not think about it anymore at 11:58 a.m. At 11:58, Henry's phone rang. It was Erica, who provided a brief update on the latest developments and stated that she would call back at 7 p.m. with a comprehensive report. She called precisely at 7 p.m. In essence, the shooting was of an exemplary caliber. The private detective attended the concert and captured additional footage for a considerable duration. Mel initially exhibited trepidation towards the cameras, yet by the conclusion of the concert, they were embracing and kissing once more. Upon returning to Henry and Mel's residence, the private detective anticipated this and positioned recording equipment in various rooms. They spent the night engaged in discourse. Subsequently, in the master bedroom, and later in the kitchen, they engaged in passionate sexual intercourse. During this conversation, they discussed the nature of their relationship, openly mentioning a few sexual escapades that had occurred within the walls of the law firm. They also discussed strategies for maintaining secrecy regarding these events. Following this, they went out for lunch and returned to the bedroom for the remainder of the day and evening, engaging in further sexual intercourse. The detective will continue observation and recording, but Erica speculated that everything would be more or less the same. She wanted to know what was on Henry's mind. He had been thinking and taking notes all day. He shared his thoughts with his lawyer. She publicly disdained him and privately for 6 months. He began, "Our marriage is over." He continued, "She needs to feel the humiliation she brought upon me in the eyes of her friends. It is imperative that the truth about her actions be revealed. There is no need to embellish the facts, they speak for themselves." However, the notion of irreconcilable differences is not a valid justification for the dissolution of the marriage. I intend to serve her with legal papers at her place of employment as soon as possible. I also intend to serve her husband with papers at the same time, if possible. The same course of action should be taken with David. I hope and pray that in the dissolution of the marriage, she will emerge as the primary beneficiary. It is my hope that her business partners will exhibit greater moral fortitude than he has and force him out of the practice. Perhaps if we threaten to sue the firm for repeatedly engaging in sexual relations in the workplace, we could motivate them to take action. I am not interested in remaining in this residence. I intend to sell the property, as it evokes too many memories. In all honesty, I am uncertain if I will remain in Texas. However, I also do not wish for her to. I hope that when we sell, we can split the shares 50-50. Furthermore, I wish to safeguard all my assets. I am willing to expend my financial resources on the repayment of vehicles or other minor financial obligations. However, I am adamant that I do not wish to provide her with alimony. She has recently received a substantial bonus, which has already reached a 6-figure sum. Erica posed a few supplementary inquiries. She informed Henry that, given his capacity to earn a considerable income, she would likely nevertheless, if the law firm had a clause about moral principles, they could argue that her infidelity destroyed the marriage, which could help Henry remain in Sioux Falls or return to Austin until noon on Tuesday. Mel will be served at midday, and Erica will attempt to locate Mrs. Miller before then to ascertain her interest in joining the proceedings. Henry observed that Mel had not contacted him on Saturday. On Sunday evening, they were presumably engaged in a convivial activity with the individual in question. He was aware that contacting her was imperative to prevent her from becoming suspicious. He initiated communication at approximately 9 p.m. "I was recently contemplating your well-being and realized that we had not conversed since the previous day. I hope you will still be returning home tomorrow. I am eagerly anticipating our reunion. I have missed you profoundly. I must inform you, however, that our next encounter will be on Tuesday. I have business at O'Hare International Airport, so I will be returning to my residence at approximately 3 p.m. At 10 a.m., they agreed to plan a dinner together. However, she replied disappointedly, "I'm unable to commit to this plan." She added, "I'll convey to James, Henry's boss and CEO, that I will not be participating in any further winter trips. He has effectively ruined an otherwise enjoyable weekend that we were supposed to share." She stated that she would inform him of this decision when she sees him again. Henry, who was privately amused by her tone, reflected on how her recent actions seemed to demonstrate a shift in her character. He considered her words and realized that she had become callous and malevolent. They continued their conversation for another minute or two. Before concluding the call, Mel stated, "Henry, I love you so much. You are aware of that, correct? You know how much I love you." Mel replied, "I know exactly how much you love me." He then terminated the call, unable to bring himself to humiliate her, even if it meant disclosing the truth to her. He was aware of the situation and knew she would never humiliate him again. He proceeded to contact his superior, James, to inform him of the developments. At 3 p.m., Henry sat at the kitchen table, uncertain of Mel's return. Erica informed him that everything was proceeding as planned. The objective was to serve the woman between 2 and 4 p.m. Mrs. Miller had forgiven the man for his 2 previous affairs with women like Mel. She was not inclined to forgive a third and hired Erica to represent her interests. Both Henry Kay and Diana Miller were named as plaintiffs in a civil lawsuit against Connor Sims and Miller. Eric reminded them both that she did not believe the lawsuit would result in any tangible outcome. However, there were rumors that although Connor and Sims may not have been models of virtue, they were not the type to tolerate immorality that harmed their business. Perhaps a member could have been shown the door at 3 o'clock. At 1500 hours, Erica contacted Henry to inform him that the task had been completed. They briefly discussed the subsequent steps. Henry's telephone was inundated with messages and calls from Mel. The messages included the following: "What the hell? How dare you humiliate me at my place of work? I will never forgive you for this." Henry had only been deployed on 2 occasions. His role in the communication service was to provide combat support. However, every Marine is trained to be a rifleman. On 2 occasions in Iraq, he had been in a firefight. Neither lasted long. His captain, who had never Henry's combat experience, helped him maintain composure and resolve before the impending conflict in his kitchen. "Henry, where have you been?" "I've been looking for you," Mel demanded, emerging from the side door of the driveway. Henry sat silently at the table. Mel came around the corner with a folder in her hands and angrily threw it on the table. "You bastard," she said. "Did you serve me divorce papers at work? How could you do this? How could you be so cruel? Do you realize how humiliating that was?" Mel's tone softened slightly. "Why, Henry, why are you filing for divorce? We love each other. We have a great marriage and a wonderful future. What are you thinking?" Henry remained calm. He realized it was the first time he'd seen Mel since he made the horrifying discovery last Friday night. Her eyes seemed sunken and swollen. She was jittery. He noticed she had opened the divorce statement but apparently hadn't reviewed the documents. "Sit down, Mel. We'll discuss this." "Don't tell me to sit down. You bastard. Who do you think you are? Are you sleeping with some girl?" On the side, he swore he would sever his testicles if she were to be the one. She loomed over him, and he thought to himself, enough. He stood up and loomed over her, looking down at her with a calm but stern expression. He spoke again, in a voice that demanded attention, "Sit down, Mel." She sat down. "Mel, did you at least review the documentation associated with the divorce petition?" She shook her head from side to side but did not retrieve the file. "Let us examine the circumstances that precipitated the collapse of my world last Friday night. Here is your photograph with that individual, David, at the concert. That is not Sue. As you have been untruthful with me, it is now your superior, and the passionate embraces and kisses you have shared with him that I am referring to, Mel." She recoiled from the table as if the picture were a venomous snake about to strike. "David, this is not the appropriate time for you to speak, you will have your chance next. This flash drive is the next item on the agenda. It is not my intention to connect the device to a power source and initiate playback. You may do so at your convenience on your laptop. The recording encompasses your sexual encounter with the aforementioned individual in our residence on the aforementioned dates. Additionally, it encompasses conversations held at this table on the aforementioned dates. Furthermore, it is evident that you and the aforementioned individual engaged in discussions pertaining to past sexual experiences and strategies for maintaining Mrs. Diana Miller's ignorance regarding future developments. It is worth noting that your office is not situated in close proximity to that of the individual in question. Consequently, it is plausible that you were unaware of Mrs. Miller's decision to file divorce papers against him. Today, he will have to explain to his teenage children that he has been caught for the 3rd time having sex with a coworker. However, this is not my concern. Melanie seemed to be aware that she was the 3rd person involved, as evidenced by her reaction. She appeared to believe that she was the only one. It appeared that this individual had also engaged in sexual intercourse with a person other than their spouse. It is notable that this person was adept at deceit, although they were a lawyer. It is reasonable to assume that this individual expected such behavior from others. There are additional pages that describe your sexual activities with this person, as much as Sue could remember. It is evident that this person was aware that protecting their own interests could potentially lead to the dissolution of their marriage with Jim. Consequently, they sought to present evidence of the accusation from a legal standpoint. In other words, they exposed you and revealed your actions. This included the nights you claimed to have spent with this person, as well as the weekend with the girls in November of last year. This was a cover for your activities with this person, which included the individual in question. I am also en route to South Padre. I would advise against contacting Sue at this time. Jim has made it clear that their marriage is over if she speaks with you without his permission. Finally, you have a copy of the civil suit that Diana Miller and I are filing against your law firm for having sexual relations with the aforementioned individual in our marital bed. It should be noted that the aforementioned actions do not violate any company rules. However, the law office's desk, couch and personal bathroom are considered company property and, as such, are subject to seizure. Our lawyer believes we have a good chance of success in this matter. Therefore, I am divorcing my wife because she has broken. I am unable to articulate the depth of my emotional distress. Last week, I was compelled to travel to South Falls due to my anticipation of spending time with the woman I have always loved and who has always been my wife. She is the person I had hoped would become my children's mother. As I sat and watched the concert live, hoping to catch a glimpse of my daughter singing and dancing with her close friend, Sue, I was overcome with emotion when I saw her in the arms of another man. She was kissing him and embracing him with great passion, and I felt a deep sense of despair. I have come to accept that I have been treated unfairly and even disgustingly. It is important to recognize that nobody is perfect. Forgiveness should always be part of a marriage, but in this case, I have been hurt, despised and humiliated in front of everyone I care about. I will not tolerate your infidelity. I will not remain married to you for a single moment longer than is necessary for the divorce. I will not make it easy for you. I will protect as much of my money as I can. Your family and friends will know what you have done. I will not hide the truth from those who have treated me with contempt. Now that the consequences of their actions have become apparent, you are forced to confront the reality of your situation. It is possible that this outcome was always inevitable. I have reached the end of my patience. Speak calmly if you wish, Mel. She attempted to maintain composure, but her emotions were evident. She was a strong and proud woman, yet this man, whom she claimed to love, whom she had deeply betrayed, had just ruined her by speaking the truth. He had observed the depth of her terrible actions and their consequences. She wanted to hate him and blame him for everything. She desperately tried to avoid the obvious wrongdoing, but there was no escaping the truth of who she was. Did you anticipate this outcome? I have informed my parents that I will make the decision regarding my departure from the situation. I have consulted with my superior, as well as a few colleagues at work, in addition to my legal counsel and the attorney representing our company, Michael. I have not discussed this with anyone else. However, I must emphasize that should you attempt to conceal the truth or portray your actions in a less than accurate light, I will be compelled to share this information with the relevant parties. In addition, I am in possession of a flash drive containing further incriminating material. I am unable to divulge the full extent of the information I have to my parents, as I am aware that it would have a profoundly negative impact on them. It is therefore imperative that you do not hold me in such low regard. Furthermore, I would like to reiterate that you have demonstrated a lack of consideration for my feelings and the emotional distress your actions have caused me. Your behavior has been reprehensible and unacceptable. For a period of at least 6 months, you have been behaving in a way that suggests you had other lovers before me. I am not prepared to accept your claim that you are a victim in this situation. I will allow you a week to tell your family the truth, but after that time has elapsed, I will take the necessary steps to inform them myself. It is preferable for them to be fully aware of the circumstances, as they will receive a complete record of events. Henry, I am certain that there were no other partners involved. David was the initial and sole partner, of course. Mel and you were with Sue at the concert last Friday. You did not engage in sexual intercourse with the individual in question in our marital bed throughout the entire weekend, despite your repeated assertions of affection and love. It seems that every time you open your mouth, you are lying. It is unlikely that you even possess the capacity to tell the truth. In such a situation, it is imperative to adhere to the principles of veracity. Henry, I did not desire this outcome. I did not actively pursue it. I was swept up in the excitement of winning the D. From the moment we began, I felt an overwhelming urge to stop, yet I was unable to do so. The underlying cause of this phenomenon remains obscure. Mel, you are similarly uncertain about the underlying cause. Henry methodically searched the folder until he located the pertinent page. I must concede that I failed to grasp from our discussions the extent of your desire to remain faithful to me in this manner. In a conversation from 2 days prior, you stated, David, I just can't get enough of you. We must exercise caution if Diana or Henry ever discovers our actions. Should we discover that we are incompatible, I am unwilling to end our relationship. Mel, your attitude towards your own behavior is contradictory. You are not sleeping with me, but you are in the arms of another man in our bed. You refer to these actions as acts of love and admit that you never want to stop. Cease, Mel instructed. Your actions are irrational and self-destructive. Mel began to comprehend the implications of Henry's statements. She leaned back in her chair, silent for a moment, and then spoke. I have no justification for my actions, Henry. I am an adult and I made my decision. I believed I could conceal it from you. I assumed I could engage in this behavior without consequence. She had assumed that the affair would be harmless. She was aware that David was disagreeable and that their relationship would not progress beyond the point of mere words. Despite this, she had never experienced the same level of attachment to him as she had to Henry. She had therefore acted in a heartless manner, betraying both him and his feelings for her. Mel paused for a moment to blow her nose and dry her eyes. She then looked across at Henry. Across the table from Henry, she immediately noticed two things: his wedding ring was lying on the table, and from the look in his eyes, she realized that he was lost to her forever. She regarded him with the same contempt she had for him, and her little safe world of a loving husband crumbled. Henry, she said, I don't know what to do. I am uncertain as to the appropriate course of action. It would be inadvisable for me to leave the house until the divorce proceedings have concluded. Doing so would entail acknowledging the irreversibility of the situation and jeopardizing my financial stability. I assume that you will not be leaving either. Might I request that we remain in this location for a period of time? I require an interval during which I can deliberate and determine my subsequent actions. I am unable to guarantee that I will not pursue a divorce at this juncture. I desire to be in your company continuously. I cannot envisage a life without you. I shall reside in one of the spare rooms and avoid interactions beyond what is necessary, just like roommates. I shall respect your personal space. Mel, I am unable to instruct you in what to do, what to think, or where to go. Erica, my lawyer has advised me not to. She stated that I would feel the same way today, and I am inclined to agree. I will reside in the master bedroom, and I am disinclined to sleep on the mattress where you had sexual intercourse with that individual. I will donate to the Salvation Army, and they will provide us with a new mattress. This will be my bed on which I will never sleep in this bed again. I appreciate your understanding, Henry. I would fight to stay if I had to, but this is my only legal choice. I am grateful that you have made a compromise. I will start moving my things tomorrow while you are at work. Mel stood up and approached Henry to hug him. He quickly moved away from her. Do not touch me again. I am merely able to remain in the same room with you in order to maintain my composure. You have caused irreparable damage to our relationship. I am unable to offer you solace, either now or in the future, for the harm you have caused. You have made your own choices and must bear the consequences. I will never forget how you flirted with me, Mel, but I will strive to erase that memory. Mel attempted to remove herself from Henry's life as much as possible, and this process had already begun. Mel slumped back into the chair, dropped her head on the table, and began to sob. Mel fought the divorce with all her might. Deep down, she hoped that Henry would soften and stay. She too had to fight if she wanted to preserve even a drop of self-respect. Many friends terminated their relationships with her when they learned of her actions towards Henry. Mel petitioned the court for counseling, demonstrating that she had already undergone therapy and indicating that she had no connection to David Miller. However, representing oneself in legal proceedings is often inadvisable. Mel was concerned about the financial implications of hiring an attorney, so she decided to attempt to represent herself. She temporarily halted. The Melanie's parents urged her to reconsider her actions, expressing dismay at her decision to end her marriage. Despite their disapproval, they attempted to maintain a cordial relationship with their daughter. The divorce proceedings, which included the division of assets, took 7 months to conclude. However, Henry was not required to provide alimony. In a surprising turn of events, Melanie ended her relationship with Connor Sims Miller and joined a small firm in San Antonio on the day of her divorce. She left the house and turned back to say goodbye to Henry, who slammed the door in her face before she could speak. She now rarely dates, but usually on Fridays, she brings home a random guy just for sex. This may be a form of human interaction that soothes her soul or a reminder that she was once a who she abandoned a man who was a good match for her in a marriage. It turned out that Connor and Sim still had a soul even if they were lawyers. They removed Miller from the situation, and a few months later he relocated to Houston, where he took a position at a small law firm run by his cousin Diana. She took advantage of him financially in the divorce, and his children do not speak to him. The lawsuit filed by Henry and Diana was settled out of court for $250. The plaintiffs were each awarded $1,000 in damages. Erica was gratified by the outcome. David Miller began spending his evenings at a dilapidated bar in an undesirable neighborhood. One evening, as he was leaving, a man approached him in the parking lot. He looked into the eyes of Henry Connor. There were no surveillance cameras in this area. Henry said hello and then delivered a powerful punch to his face, fracturing his nose and jaw. Henry leaned over him and spat blood and a couple of teeth from his mouth. "I wanted you to be aware of the identity of the perpetrator. David, I wanted you to look me in the eye and understand that this was going to happen. If you report this, there are 12 retired Marines currently in the bar in downtown Austin. Most of them are wearing combat vests with medals. They will swear that I was with them all evening. If I am arrested and charged with attacking you, 1 or 2 of them will come back and finish what I started. You understand?" A year after the dissolution of their marriage, Henry was approached by the police with regard to an incident that had occurred in downtown Austin. He was leaving a cafe when he observed a woman of approximately the same age entering the establishment. He held the door open for her as she walked in. "Thank you, kind sir," she said. "It's nice to see that some cowboys still have good manners." "You're welcome, ma'am," Henry replied, heading towards his vehicle. He was about to leave when he reconsidered and turned around, heading back into the cafe. He sat facing the door and immediately looked up when he returned. He proceeded to walk directly to her table, extended his hand, and said, "I apologize for the interruption, but I simply wished to introduce myself. I am Henry." She shook his hand in greeting and said, "It is a pleasure to meet you, Henry. Why don't you pull up a chair?" He responded, "Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments.